Welcome to Fisma Compliance for Feed Mills, a resource for small to medium-sized livestock feed mills in the state of Kansas to help them comply with the Preventive Controls for Animal Food rule. This first presentation is to describe what is Fisma and what is the Preventive Controls for Animal Food rule. To better understand Fisma, or the Food Safety Modernization Act, sometimes it helps to better understand how did we get here. The U.S. has a history of legislation impacting the livestock feed industry and its safety dating back to the 1906 Pure Food and Drug Act. This was the first time that the U.S. government stipulated that food intended for humans or animals could not be adulterated or misbranded. This set of rules was largely incorporated later on into the 1938 Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. Sometimes referred to as the FD&C, this act prevents adulteration and misbranding of food for any types, such as that for humans and animals, as well as the adulteration or misbranding of cosmetics and medical devices. Even today, most of our food safety laws trace back to this 1938 legislation, with new additions being amendments to this original act. In the 1950s, we saw a Food Additives Amendment that required any food to either be generally recognized as safe or be used only if approved through a food additive petition. The 1970s saw legislation relating to the safe addition of medicated feed additives and was accompanied by later rules in the 1990s and 2000s describing their use through a veterinary feed directive. Bovine spongiform encephalopathy, or BSE, sometimes referred to as mad cow disease, changed our industry forever. Its resultant rules in 1997 and 2008 led to the prohibition of ruminant tissues being used in feed intended for other ruminants and prevention measures taken to minimize cross-contamination during transport. In 2002, the Bioterrorism Preparedness and Response Act required animal food manufacturing facilities to register with the government and have traceability for where their ingredients came from and where their finished product is distributed. In 2007, the Food and Drug Administration Amendments Act, or FDAAA, required, among other things, facilities to notify the FDA if they distributed animal food that had a reasonable probability of causing serious or adverse health consequences or death to humans or animals. Finally, in 2011, we saw the enacting of the Food Safety Modernization Act, or FSMA. When FSMA was signed into law in January of 2011, Congress stated that the United States needed the Food Safety Modernization Act because the current food safety system had an opportunity for improvement. FSMA shifted the focus of food safety from responding to contamination to preventing it. When FDA evaluated the change in this legislation, it noted that this was the most sweeping reform of food safety laws in more than 70 years. That means that FSMA is the biggest change ever made to the 1938 Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. When we consider that there have been previous rules, such as the ruminant feed ban, medicated feed CGMPs, and veterinary feed directives that have significantly impacted the livestock feed industry, it's noteworthy to understand that FSMA is the cause of the most major change to how food safety is manufactured, processed, packed, and held in the United States. The Food Safety Modernization Act has 7 different rules that work together to maintain food safety across the system. The first 4 of these rules can have the potential to impact the livestock feed industry. The first of these is the Preventive Controls for Animal Food rule, which is the topic of this set of presentations. There are also requirements for importers of animal food that was manufactured outside the United States to ensure its safety. There are requirements for the sanitary transportation of food, including that for humans and animals, as well as accredited third-party certification for laboratories that analyze these foods. There are also 3 additional rules that are solely focused on food intended for human consumption. Again, the purpose of this set of presentations is to describe the obligations and enforcement for the Preventive Controls for Animal Food rule. The Preventive Controls for Animal Food rule is found in Title 21 of the Code of Federal Regulations, Part 507. Its full title is The Current Good Manufacturing Practice, Hazard Analysis, and Risk-Based Preventive Controls for Food for Animals. The rule has 6 different subparts. Subpart A describes the general provisions, such as who has to comply with the rule, who is exempt, and what training is needed. Subpart B describes the current good manufacturing practice requirements for facilities that must comply. Basically, what are the expectations for the construction and operation of the facility for it to be capable of manufacturing safe animal food? Subpart C has led to the largest change to the livestock feed industry. It describes how facilities must identify and control hazards to prevent them from occurring in finished product and, later on, causing illness or injury to humans or animals. Subpart D and E may have application in certain instances and sectors within the animal food industry, but they're less likely to have a direct impact to our Kansas feed mills. Finally, Subpart F describes the requirements that are associated with records for the Preventive Controls for Animal Food rule. We will describe and highlight each of these parts in coming videos. This project is supported by the Food and Drug Administration of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services as part of a financial assistance award with 100% funded by FDA and HHS. The contents are those of the author and do not necessarily represent the official views of, nor an endorsement by, HHS or FDA or the U.S. government. If you have additional questions regarding the Food Safety Modernization Act or the Preventive Controls for Animal Food rule, please reach out to us at the Kansas Department of Agriculture in the Dairy and Feed Safety Program. You may reach us by email at kda.feed@ks.gov or by phone at 785-564-6700.